Hello my lovely friends, my name is Ava and today I have some romance recommendations. If you know what stands for, it stands for male male, so gay romance is essentially two men falling in love with each other. So the first one that I have to recommend is probably my favorite romance of all time. This is Everything for You by Chloe Lisa. I love this book so freaking much. This like wafts between Always Only You by Chloe as being my favorite Chloe book. This is an age gap romance between two soccer players who are on the same soccer team. Gavin is our older hero. He has been the captain of this soccer team for a few years, to a point where when Oliver was younger, he actually had a poster of him on his wall. It was like his big celebrity crush, okay? So he is stoked when he realizes he's gonna be on the same team as Gavin, but he realizes he's this giant grumpy dude, and Oliver is definitely the opposite, so is the grumpy sunshine trope. One of the reasons why Gavin isn't the nicest to Oliver, honestly, why he's so grumpy and standoffish towards him, is simply because he is jealous of this younger man. Because of the years he has spent playing this sport, his body is rebelling against him. He's dealing with a lot of chronic pain. He is coming to terms with the fact that he probably is not going to be able to play soccer anymore because his body will not let him. He is in so much excruciating pain. So he's jealous of this younger guy coming in, doing everything that he thinks that like he wishes he can do. And then the cherry on top of the sundae is the fact that the coach tells him, hey, how about y'all become co-captains now? Because he's probably going to detransition Gavin out of being the captain of the team. So he is honestly pissed. And then a little tidbit here is these two are actually next door neighbors at their houses. And yeah, that's all I'll say. There's great mental health representation, chronic pain representation. One of my favorite scenes of all time is in this book. It involves both them in the shower and it literally made me sob like a baby. I love this book so much. Another great contemporary one is Work For It by Talia Hibbert. I believe this is the only romance that Talia Hibbert has published. This is the romance between Keynes and Griffin. I also think that this is an interracial romance, as well as I think age gap, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong though. Please correct me in that aspect. It's been a few years since I read this one, but I love this one. Look at this cover. Like it's absolutely stunning. Keynes is absolutely going through it in the beginning of this book. He is not doing well mentally and he just decides to up and leave his life and drive anywhere. And he ends up in this very small town where Griffin is at. And I believe they meet at a bar and they don't really get off on the right foot because I think they end up making out in the alley behind the bar. And then Keynes says some messed up crap to where Griffin is very offended and walks off. They don't expect to see each other after that night, honestly, but then they actually end up having to work together because Keynes decides to stay in the small town for a little while. He likes the vibes of it and he gets a job at this, I think it's a ranch where Griffin works at, not knowing that Griffin works there. They're in forced proximity because they have to work together. This is definitely like a attraction to hate to love romance. If you want one with mental health representation, I recommend Glitterland by Alexis Hall. If I remember correctly, probably any Alexis Hall that you pick up is going to be and have great mental health representation. I've only read this particular one, but I do know some of my friends who have said those two things. So this one is definitely an opposites attract. One of our heroes is like wears black and is moody and broody and has gone through a lot in his life, and he's the one dealing with stuff mentally. Big trigger warning here for depression, but I thought it was like accurately done, you know what I mean? Like I really related to him. And when he is out at a bar one night, he ends up across what he considers a unicorn man. That is our other hero, and he is just glitter, spray tan, loud, funny. Like he is the complete opposite of our other hero, and it's their romance, and they can't really believe that they would be so well matched together, but they are, and they kind of save each other's lives in a way. If you're wanting a paranormal one, I have Lover at Last by J.R. Ward. Now, this is deep, a few books, double digits deep into the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, I believe. I recommend reading the series in order, I will say that, just because you got to read these two best friends. They're best friends. This is a best friends to lovers romance with vampires. They're both vampire men vampire warrior men. And that's all I can really say. Book number 1 is Dark Lover, and that is the beginning of this whole series. This is a vampire romance series about vampires who basically live on our world, but humans don't know about them. And then they have the Black Tiger Brotherhood, who is the protectors and warriors, basically like bodyguards of the vampire species. And you got to meet Blay and Quinn throughout the other books in the series. They're like best friends, they're roommates, they do everything together. Quinn has gone through so much in his life because his family is of this aristocracy of vampires and expects so much of him. And the fact that he is into men definitely does not float well with his family. Blay may or may not have been secretly in love with him their whole entire lives. So yeah, this one is so freaking good. I love it so much. And I also love how they like pop up in their romance throughout the other books in the series as well. So if you're wanting a monster romance, I have Tentacles and Triathlons by Ashley Bennett. So this is a romance series where it's like our world, except monsters also exist and live within our community, I guess. So our hero in this one, he actually grew up with a dad who taught him to be prejudiced against monster creatures. So he is really trying to get rid of that mentality and that trauma because his sister actually married a monster creature. It's book number 1, Muscles and Monsters. That's his sister. And so he's really trying to like rewire his brain to not think that way. So our human hero, he is wanting to compete in a triathlon, and he's done well with everything except for the swimming portion. He feels he's not the strongest swimmer, and so he goes to one of his brother-in-law's friends who is a kraken creature. His name's Cyrus. He's like, hey, can you show me some ropes on swimming and like give me some lessons? And he's like, for sure. What he doesn't know is like Cyrus already knows that they're fated mates. By like one glimpse, he knows that that's his fated mate, but he also knows that he has had some trouble with monsters in the past. And so he doesn't want to like push himself on this man who could be scared of him, who doesn't want him. So he's just going to keep that little tidbit under wraps. But yeah, this one's really good. It's really hot. There are a few scenes in the pool that are absolutely electric. Another monster one, but this one's like a novella, is Little Slice of Hell by Cleo Evans. This is a part of the I think it's called Monstrous Cafe series. I think that's the title's name. You have a bunch of LGBTQ rep throughout the whole entire series. I've only read, I think, up to book number 2. And if you have not listened to these on audio, the person who narrates these books, their voice could literally melt my panties off my body. I will just say that. So I wish that person narrated every single book, honestly. Anyway, so if I remember correctly, each book in the series features this guy who owns this creature cafe, okay, for like monster creatures. And his gift is basically being a matchmaker, even though he's this rugged, big, bearded, grumpy dude. His affinity is matchmaking. He doesn't like doing it, but that's what he does, you know? I think the human comes up to him. I can't remember. It's either the human or the monster. I can't remember, honestly. It's been a long time since I've read this. But one of the two guys comes up to him and is like, hey, I would like you to find my fated mate. And he ends up finding their fated mate for them. And they meet in this cafe. And it kind of like starts from there. But I can never get over that narrator's voice. Like, it is delicious. I have 3 novellas to mention. And then lastly, a historical at the end. So don't click off yet. Okay. First, I have Crybaby by Marina Vivancos. Obviously, Samantha from Books with Samantha recommended this book for me, as well as the next one I'm going to be mentioning. She loves Marina Vivancos. It's like her favorite author of all time. She writes a lot of romances. Maybe all of her books are romances. I can't remember because I haven't read all of them, but probably the majority of them are. This one is a friends to lovers romance. These two are roommates. I think they're roommates. They're best friends, and one of them wants, I guess, help on how to get a boyfriend, and the other one helps him out, but they end up falling for each other anyway, even though they've both secretly been in love with each other this whole freaking time. So that one was really fun. The Crybaby title comes in because one of the guys like kind of like gets off on the other hero crying with pleasure, so there's that. I also have I've Walked Where You've Been by Marina Vivancos. This one has like a fated mate aspect to it. So it's basically our world except soulmates exist. You can lock eyes with someone and then the fated mate bond like completely like kicks in. But the thing is, most of these bonds form when you're adults. You meet your mate when you're adult, your soulmate when you're adult. But these two guys, when they were little kids, like 8, 6, whatever, they were crossing the street, they locked eyes, the bond formed. Nothing sexual, obviously, between them, but it's just their bodies telling them like, hey, this is who you're destined to be with. And another little stickler here is once the bond forms and you like lock eyes with your soulmate, you cannot be parted from them for a long period of time, or like your body will start to shut down and get in immense pain. So they're kind of forced to be around each other for the rest of their lives. And you want to know the kicker? They don't like each other. They're completely opposite. One of them is very studious, bookish, introvert, and the other one's like sports, hiking, outdoor, like a rambunctious one. You know what I mean? So very opposites attract, and they don't really get along. They don't like doing the same things. So they kind of hate each other because they're like, I'm stuck with you and I can't do the things that I want to do because I'm stuck with you. But then they end up falling for each other. Obviously, I don't want to spoil it. It is a novella. Next, I have The Babysitter by Jack Harbin. This one is a novella as well. So our younger hero in here, he is in college and is a babysitter to this little girl in this family. There's a mom and a dad and a little girl. And one night he ends up finding out that the two parents are getting divorced. He's always had a huge crush on the dad, by the way. He's absolutely hot, gorgeous. He's always been attracted to him. And I think one day he leaves one of his college notebooks at the house, and I think he like, it's also a diary, and I think the dad accidentally like reads it, and he like kind of like calls the babysitter over and is like, hey, come on over, no one's home right now, come on over. So that's, I think that's how that one goes, if I remember correctly. I read this one like over 3 years ago. So, and lastly, I have a historical. I love this one. This is It Takes Two to Tumble by Cat Sebastian. If you want a historical romance that's and is also like The Sound of Music with no music, I recommend It Takes Two to Tumble. One of our heroes, he is a vicar, which is kind of like a preacher in this small town, and he like moves there recently, and he finds out that everyone is like really frustrated with these kids running amok around the town and ruining a lot of their stuff. And he's like, okay, let me help out these kids. He goes to their house. It's like a huge estate, and turns out there's no parent there. Their dad is a seaman off at sea, and their mother died, and the only ones taking care of them are the staff, and they're busy taking care of the house. So the kids are kind of left to their own devices. So he decides to move in essentially and help them out, help these kids become more polite in a sense. And then their dad shows up after a few years at sea, and he's not very happy that this stranger is living in his home, but he's like, no one was taking care of your kids. Like, you weren't here, I was here. And then the seaman hero is like figuring out that his kids absolutely love this guy, and so he's like, okay, I guess you can stay. And the main reason why he doesn't want him around is because he finds him very attractive and he doesn't want to give in to that desire. That's all I'll say about that one, but I absolutely love that one. Anyways, there we have it. Those were some romances. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books or if you plan to, and if you don't feel like commenting anything else, you can leave me, what emoji should we do? What can I see around my room? A pen emoji in the comment section down below. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I will see y'all soon in my next one. Bye y'all.